He thought he was just doing a good deed. But that moment changed his life forever. Arnold Schwarzenegger, accustomed to attention and success, was not looking for anything special that morning. However, one look at an elderly woman, forgotten by the world, made him stop. Little did he know that this encounter would open the door to a past he had long considered closed. What started as a gesture of kindness turned into a story that made millions of people think. But most importantly, it was not about glory, but about redemption. The morning air was crisp as Arnold Schwarzenegger guided his car down the winding coastal road of Monterey, California. The Pacific stretched endlessly beside him, waves rolling in slow and steady, a rhythm that, after decades of action-packed living, he had come to appreciate. At 76, he still embraced these moments of solitude, the hum of an old blues tune playing softly in the background, the scent of salt in the air. No movie sets, no cameras, no obligations, just him and the open road. Retirement had changed his schedule, but not his discipline. He still rose early, still worked out every morning, still held on to the philosophy that every day was an opportunity. But unlike the past, he wasn't in a hurry. His plan today was simple: a stop at his favorite gas station for a coffee, then maybe a quiet moment on the pier before heading home. Yet as he approached the station, something made him slow down. Just beyond the gas pumps, near the edge of the parking lot, an elderly woman sat hunched on the curb. She was wrapped in layers of tattered clothing, her frail frame nearly swallowed by the fabric. Her hands, thin and bony, clutched a crumpled plastic grocery bag. Her shoes, if they could still be called that, were worn and split at the soles. She didn't move, didn't speak. She just sat there, staring at something unseen in the distance. People walked past her without a second glance. A man in a business suit exited the convenience store, coffee in hand, barely acknowledging her presence. A mother shuffled her child along, subtly angling her body to shield the kid from noticing. Even the gas station clerk, who leaned against the door frame, smoking a cigarette, gave her a lingering look before disappearing inside. She wasn't begging. She wasn't causing trouble. She was just there. Arnold felt his fingers tighten around the steering wheel. He had seen people like her before, countless times. The forgotten. The ones who faded into the background of a world too busy to care. Normally, he would have kept driving. Maybe it was age. Maybe it was the wear of too many years watching kindness disappear. But something about this woman made him stop. He pulled into the gas station, cut the engine, and just sat there for a moment, studying her. Something felt off. She wasn't just another lost soul on the streets. There was something familiar in the way she sat, in the way her hands trembled slightly as she gripped her bag. And when she finally lifted her head, her sunken, weary eyes locked onto his. That's when Arnold saw it, recognition. It was subtle at first, a flicker in her gaze, a tightening around her mouth. But it was there. She knew him, not as the former governor, not as the action star, but as something else. And Arnold, though he couldn't place it, felt the unsettling truth that he knew her too. He stepped out of his car, his boots crunching against the gravel. The station was relatively quiet, save for the occasional hum of an engine pulling in and out, the distant cries of seagulls overhead. The woman didn't look away as he approached, her gaze steady, almost as if she had been expecting him. Up close, she looked even frilier than he first thought. Deep lines were carved into her face, her skin weathered and dry, like parchment left in the sun too long. Yet beneath the weight of time, there was something else, a quiet strength, an endurance that hadn't yet crumbled under the weight of the years. She squinted up at him, her lips parting slightly, as if trying to form a thought she wasn't sure she wanted to say. "Do you need anything, ma'am?" Arnold asked, his voice steady but gentle. She exhaled, almost like a laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Didn't think you'd recognize me." Arnold frowned. There was a rasp in her voice, the kind that came from years of smoking or maybe just time wearing a person down. "I don't," he admitted honestly. She nodded slowly, her fingers tightening around the plastic bag in her lap. It crinkled under her grip, the contents inside shifting slightly, though he couldn't see what she was holding on to so tightly. "You used to." Silence settled between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. Arnold was no stranger to lost memories creeping back when he least expected them. He had met thousands of people in his life, shaking hands at events, on film sets, in political rallies. Faces blurred, voices faded. Time twisted everything together until the past became a fog he could only sometimes navigate. But something about the way she looked at him made him feel like this wasn't just another face he had forgotten. Still, he didn't push. Instead, he motioned toward the gas station. "Can I get you something? Coffee? A sandwich?" For a moment, she didn't answer. Just looked at him, as if trying to decide if this was real. If he was real, then finally she nodded. "Coffee. Black." Arnold gave a small nod in return and turned toward the store, but just as he reached the door, her voice stopped him. "They used to call me Anna." The name landed like a weight in his chest. Arnold froze. The door to the gas station was inches from his hand, but the name stopped him cold. Anna. It wasn't just a name. It was a memory. A face from the past, blurred by time, but suddenly crashing into focus. He turned back, his breath slow and measured, but his heartbeat had picked up. Anna? It couldn't be. She studied him, her lips pressing together, like she was waiting for the realization to hit. And it did. Hard. 50 years ago. Los Angeles. A different world, a different time. Arnold wasn't a global icon then. Not yet. He was just a man on the rise, juggling fame, the pressures of Hollywood, and a personal life that always seemed to be unraveling. And Anna was the woman he let slip through his fingers. The memories unraveled like a reel of film playing in his mind. She had been a waitress at a little diner he used to visit after late-night shoots. Back then, she was young, sharp, full of fire, the kind of woman who didn't care who he was. She gave him attitude, sarcasm, and the best damn coffee in town. They had spent hours talking, laughing, arguing about everything and nothing. But life had pulled them apart. He got busier. The movie roles piled up, and his name became bigger than he had ever imagined. And Anna, she disappeared. No volví. No trace. Just gone. And now here she was, sitting on a curb outside a gas station, looking nothing like the woman he once knew, but somehow still the same. Anna, he said, the name foreign on his tongue after all these years. She gave a small, almost sad smile. Took you long enough. Arnold stood frozen in place, the weight of recognition settling heavily on his chest. Anna's face was different now, etched with lines of hardship, her once vibrant eyes now dulled by years of struggle. Yet the essence of her remained, a ghost of the woman he had once known lingering beneath the surface. She shifted slightly, her fingers tightening around the plastic bag in her lap. "Didn't think I'd see you again," she murmured, her voice hoarse from either time or too many cigarettes, maybe both. He exhaled, steadying himself before crouching down to her level, ignoring the protest of his aging knees. "Anna," he repeated, the name no longer foreign, but filled with decades of unspoken memories. "What happened to you?" A wry chuckle escaped her lips. "That's a long story, Arnold. You sure you got time for it?" He nodded. "You do." Anna studied him for a moment before sighing. "All right then," she said, shifting her weight slightly. "I left L.A. in '79. Thought I'd start fresh somewhere else. Somewhere I wasn't just another waitress serving coffee to people with bigger dreams than me." Arnold listened, every word peeling back another layer of the past. He could still see her as she was back then, full of fire, always ready with a witty retort to whatever nonsense he spouted. She had been one of the few people who treated him like just another man, not some rising Hollywood star. "I went up to Sacramento," she continued, her voice quieter now. "Met someone, got married, thought it was the right thing." Arnold felt the tension in her words. "But it wasn't?" Anna shook her head. "No. He was a smooth talker, good at making promises. But promises don't mean much when they're just words, you know?" She glanced away for a moment, lost in thought. "He changed. Slowly at first, little things controlling what I wore, who I talked to. Then it got worse. Took me a long time to realize I wasn't going to change him, that I had to get out." Arnold's jaw tightened. He had seen it before, heard similar stories from women he'd met over the years. "Did you?" A slow nod. "Yeah. Took me a while, but I finally left. Had nothing but a couple of bucks and a suitcase. Thought I could rebuild again. His chest tightened. What happened? Anna let out a breath, shaking her head. Life happened. Got a job, lost it. Found another, lost that too. The rent went up, bills stacked higher than I could reach. Before I knew it, I was out on the streets. Arnold swallowed hard, guilt settling deep. While he had been making movies, traveling the world, and living in luxury, she had been fighting just to survive. Why didn't you reach out? He finally asked. You knew I would have helped? Anna met his gaze, her eyes filled with something he couldn't quite place. Because, Arnold, some things you don't ask for. Pride, stubbornness, call it what you want. But when you got nothing left, sometimes the hardest thing is to ask for help. Silence settled between them, heavy but understanding. Arnold sighed, running a hand through his hair. He couldn't change the past, but maybe, just maybe, he could do something now. You need a place to stay, he said, his voice firm. Anna shook her head immediately. I'm fine. Like hell you are. She huffed a small laugh, but there was no humor in it. I don't need a charity case moment from Arnold Schwarzenegger. His gaze didn't waver. It's not charity. It's what should have happened a long time ago. Anna exhaled, rubbing a hand over her face. She looked exhausted, not just physically, but in a way that spoke of years of struggle wearing someone down. Before she could argue again, Arnold pulled his wallet from his jacket and handed her a stack of $100 bills. Here, get yourself a room. A real one, with heat and a lock on the door. Anna hesitated, staring at the money like it was something foreign. Her fingers trembled as she reached for it. I don't. Take it, Arnold interrupted. It's not a damn handout, Anna. It's a start. She swallowed hard, then took the money, gripping it tightly as if afraid it might disappear. Arnold wasn't done. He pulled out his phone and started dialing. Anna frowned. Who are you calling? An old friend, he answered. Someone who still owes me a favor. He stepped away, voice low as he spoke. Anna caught bits and pieces, something about housing, a long-term plan, no strings attached. By the time he turned back, her eyes were suspiciously wet. You don't have to do this, she whispered. Arnold met her gaze, his expression unreadable. I know, but I want to. The silence between them stretched. And then, for the first time in years, Anna let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. Arnold sat across from Anna in the dimly lit motel room, the scent of stale air and old coffee lingering in the space. She had settled into the chair by the window, her bony fingers wrapped around a cup of steaming black coffee he had brought her from the gas station. Her hands still trembled slightly, whether from exhaustion or years of struggle, he wasn't sure. She took a slow sip, letting the warmth seep through her fingers, before glancing up at him with tired eyes. You ever think about the past, Arnold? He exhaled, leaning back in his chair. More than I care to admit. Anna chuckled, though there was little humor in it. Funny how it sneaks up on you, isn't it? One day you're young, chasing dreams, and the next. She gestured vaguely at the room around them. You wake up and wonder how the hell you got here. Arnold watched her, the weight of her words settling heavily in his chest. I think about it all the time, about the choices I made, the people I left behind. He hesitated, then added, the people I shouldn't have. She looked at him, then really looked at him. You mean me? He nodded. Yeah. A long silence stretched between them. The hum of a car passing outside was the only sound, the headlights briefly illuminating the worn-out room. Anna sighed, setting her cup down on the table. I don't blame you, Arnold. Life happens. We all make choices. I made mine too. That doesn't mean I don't regret it, he admitted. If I had known back then what I know now, maybe things would have been different. Anna smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. Maybe, or maybe not. We can't change the past, Arnold, but we can decide what we do with what's left of the future. He studied her, seeing the woman she once was beneath the years of hardship. The fire in her eyes had dimmed, but it hadn't been completely extinguished. He made a decision then, one he knew he couldn't take back. You don't have to do this alone anymore, he said firmly. You have me, and I'm not going anywhere this time. Anna blinked at him, as if trying to gauge whether he truly meant it. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I don't know if I remember how to let someone help me. Then we'll figure it out together, he said. For the first time that night, Anna let out a deep, shaky breath, as if releasing a weight she had carried for far too long. She nodded slowly, her fingers tightening around the warm cup in her hands. And just like that, the past was no longer something to run from, but something to learn from. Arnold knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in years, he felt certain about one thing. He wasn't going to let Anna slip away again. Arnold sat at the kitchen table of the small, cozy house he had rented for Anna. It wasn't anything extravagant, just a modest two-bedroom place with a sturdy roof and a warm interior. But after years of sleeping on sidewalks and shelters, to Anna, it might as well have been a palace. The morning sunlight streamed through the thin curtains, casting a golden glow over the wooden table where they now sat with 2 steaming cups of coffee. Anna wrapped her hands around her mug, letting the warmth seep into her fingers. She hadn't said much since waking up, still adjusting to the idea of not having to fight for survival. Arnold watched her carefully, knowing that change, even good change, was difficult. "You sleep okay?" he finally asked. Anna let out a soft chuckle. "First night in a real bed in years. Felt strange, but yeah, I slept." Arnold nodded, satisfied. "Good." They sat in silence for a few moments before Anna finally exhaled deeply and set her mug down. "I don't know how to do this, Arnold." He raised an eyebrow. "Do what?" "This." She gestured around the house. "Living like a normal person again. I got so used to just surviving that I don't know what it's like to actually live." Arnold leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. "Then take it one day at a time. There's no rush, no expectations. You don't have to have it all figured out right now." Anna sighed, rubbing her forehead. "I appreciate everything you've done, Arnold, but I don't want to be some charity case. I need to feel like I'm earning this." He gave her a knowing look. "I wouldn't have expected anything else from you. That's why I've been thinking. If you're ready, I might have a job for you." Her eyebrows lifted in curiosity. "A job?" He nodded. "It's nothing crazy. A friend of mine runs a community center downtown. They're always looking for people to help out, keep things running. You'd get paid, and it'd give you something to do. No pressure, just an option." Anna molded over, chewing her bottom lip. "A community center? Huh?" "Yeah," Arnold said. "It's a good place. Helps a lot of people. People like you, who just need a second chance." She chuckled softly. "You really don't give up, do you?" "No." She took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, I'll give it a shot." Arnold smiled. "That's all I ask." For the first time in years, Anna felt something unfamiliar, a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could start again. Arnold stood at the entrance of the community center, watching as Anna stepped inside. The place was buzzing with energy. Volunteers moving supplies, staff coordinating activities, and a few kids running around, their laughter filling the halls. The scent of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods from the kitchen wafted through the air, blending with a warm atmosphere of hope and resilience. Anna hesitated at the doorway, gripping the strap of her worn-out bag. She was dressed in simple jeans and a clean sweater Arnold had bought her, a stark contrast to the tattered clothes she had been wearing just days before. The transformation was subtle, but it was there. Her face, though still lined with the hardships she had endured, held something new: determination. "Hey!" Arnold nudged her lightly on the shoulder. "You're gonna do great." She gave him a small, tight-lipped smile. "I hope so." As they walked further inside, a tall man with a friendly demeanor approached them. "Arnold," he greeted with a broad smile, extending a hand. "Good to see you again." "You too, Greg," Arnold replied, shaking his hand firmly before gesturing toward Anna. "This is Anna. She's looking for a fresh start." Greg turned to Anna with a warm expression. "Well, you came to the right place. We're always looking for more hands, and you'll find this place is full of good people." Anna shifted slightly, still unsure. "I'm not really sure what I can do, but I'll try." Greg nodded. "That's all we ask." He led them on a short tour, showing Anna the different areas. The kitchen where meals were prepared for the homeless, the storage rooms filled with donated clothes and supplies, and the activity hall where children and struggling families gathered for support. With every step, Arnold noticed Anna's posture relax just a bit more. When they reached the kitchen, Greg turned to Anna. How about starting here? Nothing complicated. Help prepare meals, serve when needed, and just be around to lend a hand. Think you can handle that? Anna exhaled and gave a small nod. Yeah, I think I can. Greg smiled. Great. Let's get you started. Arnold watched as Anna followed Greg inside, rolling up her sleeves as if ready to take on the challenge. He could see it, the beginning of something new. For the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving. She was living. Arnold didn't need recognition, nor did he want thanks. Seeing her take that step forward was enough. He turned to leave, his job done for now, but knowing deep down that this wasn't the end of their story. It was just the beginning of her second chance.